Hello and welcome to Dixon Cox with me, Nick Dixon, and Paul Cox, the podcast where we go through the week's big stories in a light-hearted fashion in order to conceal a darker far-right agenda. Probably shouldn't say that bit. So, of course, this week we have the budget as the big story. Rachel Reeves dropping a ton of you-know-what on the nation, and we'll go through the budget. Not in ridiculous detail because we're not a financial podcast, but we'll go through the main points and some of the funny videos and stuff. And also the budget leak. Why did the OBR leak the entire budget before it was even announced? And also, the Labour government want to scrap trial by jury. So we'll probably go through that in the paywall section over on nickdixon.net, where you can subscribe for a very low price. And you should, if you know what's good for you, nickdixon.net. And also go to @PaulCoxComedy. And we're doing this a day late because it was Paul's birthday yesterday. Paul, happy birthday. How was it?
Thank you, Nick. It was, suitably okay. I am now 46 years old, as discussed just before. I've got like a swollen knee. Life's kicked in. Life's horrendous now. It's all over. As some of you will see, that I'm actually using a new mic. I'm in a different room. I am where I'm supposed to be, and I'm in the process of building a new studio. So what we're seeing today is the culmination of about 40 minutes of Nick just absolutely testing his patience to the limits and doing very well. I will say, genuinely, incredibly well. I've got a new mic. I don't quite know what I'm doing. I've bought some whizzy kit to go with it. It doesn't quite work. Hopefully you can all hear me well. And within the next week or so, this will all look like this. All can look a little bit jazzy. I'm going to look like I'm doing this properly.
I'm sure it'll be better than mine when it finishes eventually. Yes, but it's been painful in the short term, but what isn't? And yeah, your knees knackered, my shoulders, something's torn. That's incredibly painful. And I made it worse playing football the other night. Scored one goal, but made my shoulder much worse. Got some sort of carpal tunnel in my hand. We could do a whole health, and we will do a whole health podcast separate to this.
Middle-aged man podcast.
Yeah, it is grim. It is totally grim and miserable. And speaking of grim and miserable, Paul.
Yes.
The budget. The budget. I mean, that was a great link. So we had this budget, guys. You're probably aware. And I'm not quite sure who it's good for. Well, it's good for essentially the bond markets only. They were sort of somewhat okay with it. And everyone else, it was just awful. This was very much the theme. Taxes, thousands of them. Zulu reference, if you've seen that before. This was a great tweet.
That is so good.
Good. Taxes, yeah. So this is what the budget is. Taxes for everyone. I'll just give you some highlights. Alison Pearson. If you earn over £50,270 a year, you will now pay 40% tax, even if things are tight for your two-child family and the cost of living is horrendous. If you have 6 children, Labour will now give you £14,000 extra. What was that about fairness? And also, Alison shared an interesting stat on the Planet Normal podcast that in 2022, no UK full-time worker on average pay was a 40% taxpayer, right? But now if you're an average earner in London, age 30 to 60, you are a 40% taxpayer. It's basically you and me, Paul, absolutely screwed by this budget.
Some random stat that came out of it yesterday also was that if you're in the middle bracket, then you are going to be paying probably about £2,000 to £3,000 a year more tax, which is ridiculous because none of us feel like we are better off by £2,000 to £3,000. However, if you earn over 130 grand, you'll actually get a bit of a tax break. So those that are way outside, by the way, this tax kicks in over about, as you say, on that bracket, 40 to 60 grand or whatever. If you actually manage to earn over 130 grand, you will get a slight tax break, which is absolutely mental. I think this is a byproduct they didn't foresee happening. But anyway, Nick, carry on. I mean, all it goes to prove is that they are economically R word.
Yeah, I'm just giving you some of the highlights of the tweets. We'll go into the stats, but this was a funny one. Every single young working person I've spoken to today has commented on the utter misery of living in the UK, constantly being bombarded with inshitification from all angles. Peston even points out over the next 5 years, the OBR is forecasting that welfare spending will rise by 73.2 billion to 406.2 billion. And it's mainly pension triple lock and disability benefits, that triple lock. Neil O'Brien shares the Nick 30 ons meme, which you may have seen. Another bad day for Nick 30. I feel targeted. I wish I was 30. Income tax up £658. Student loan repayment £239. Rent up landlord tax passed on, tax on savings up, non-working neighbor gets 7K benefit payout. And you get to literally look at them as well is a great thing. You get to, in where I live, you get to see them across in the social housing, not working while you go out to pay so they can sit watching massive tellies all day. This is the problem, Paul. So the income tax thing is the one that's really screwed everyone. So it's a freeze on income tax thresholds, right, for an extra 3 years from up to 2031. And they can technically say they haven't raised taxes because it's all about fiscal drag. You freeze the threshold so everyone moves up in line with inflation. They move into these higher tax brackets. So almost 1 million workers will move into the higher tax bracket. The Mel Strides had 1.6 or 1.7 million. So it depends where you get your stats. And it will force 780,000 people to pay income tax for the first time. So it shifts the people who are earning very little into paying tax, and it shifts the average normie worker trying his best, the very few net tax contributors in this country, which is less than half of us. It pushes us up into 40%, or pushes many people. Maybe you were just about, we may have been just about in 40% already, but it pushes you higher. And it's a complete disaster. By 2030/31, 1 in 4 people will be paying the higher rate of income tax. 1 in 4. Pretty incredible stuff. And then we got the benefit cap, but I was going to go on to that a bit later. I thought we'd just look at this on the old tax thing and see why Labour didn't in any way keep their promise, and just watch this little video on it.
Let me be absolutely clear, we will not raise tax for working people.
Labour will not be increasing taxes. I am very clear about that.
No tax rises.
We don't want to increase taxes.
No income tax, no national insurance, no VAT.
I will not raise taxes.
We're not
That was
going
only
to
Fools and
increase
Horses, wasn't
tax. I don't believe it's fair to raise taxes on working people.
I would like taxes on working people to be lower. I want to cut taxes.
Labour will not be raising taxes.
There'll be no additional taxes on households under Labour.
Is a commitment not to increase taxes.
Because we've been very, very clear, we will not increase
No plans
to raise taxes.
Taxes.
We have no plans to raise taxes on working people. We've said it a million times. We're going to have to put up taxes.
Well, that's not true. This budget raises taxes by £40 billion.
The biggest tax increases seen since 1993.
There's no need to come back with another budget like this. We never need to do that again.
I'm really clear. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
It's now on us. I will maintain all income tax and equivalent national insurance thresholds at their current level. But we don't need to come back for more. We don't need to increase taxes. I am asking everyone to make a contribution. Labour will not be putting up taxes on working people. I know that maintaining these thresholds is a decision that will affect working people.
There you go. Bit longer than I thought, but that was a pretty good video. Huh?
That's because they lied so much. I know we have a mechanism, a democratic mechanism, which I stand by and support, but it's now 5 years. So they can tell that many lies in their first year, totally capitulate on it, screw the country over, and they still have another 4 years. 4 years. That mechanism's failing. In theory, yes. I mean, we'll get into this in a bit, but the thing about a budget is we are now 24 hours after the budget. The statisticians, the statos will be all over it, would have been all over it all night. And the fallout is probably yet to come to fruition fully. But we're going to see this over the next day or two, over the weekend. And by the middle of next week, we'll really understand just how bad this budget is.
Yeah, and as I said before, the only people that seem vaguely happy with the bond markets because she has a bit more fiscal headroom than some people predicted. So Reuters say Reeves delivered a budget that will take more tax from workers, people saving for a pension, and from investors to give herself more room for meeting her borrowing targets. A central concern for investors. So it's basically trying not to be Liz Truss. The OBR said that the headroom now stood at almost £22 billion in 5 years' time. I don't know. I'm trying to read too many notes here at once, but basically they estimated that it should have about 17 billion. Now it'll be 22. So the markets are slightly happier, but everyone else is miserable. And the other big thing is the benefit cap, which we'll get into. But maybe we'll watch this video from Kemi first because it's just fun. So Kemi had this fairly brutal response to it, and some people felt she went too far. I mean, it was hilarious at times. I have a little theory about it, Paul, which is really just that it was quite harsh at times, but it wasn't really deliberately that harsh. Because you know when like open micers do comedy, and it's always like pedo jokes, wall to wall pedo, because they just don't really understand. My take was Kemi's just trying to deliver it strongly, and she's delivering her lines well, but then it starts to pile up, and you realize like it's just incredibly brutal. But she does mean to be tough, and I'm not sure she means to be quite as brutal. It's just like there's the line, she's going to deliver it. It's like you could deliver it with a little more elan and a little more just wit rather than like absolute sledgehammer. That's like a very mild performance criticism. Overall, though, it was still a great performance. Some people said it was her best performance, and it was still funny. I just thought, did she even? Do you know what I mean about? Did she mean to be that harsh?
Oh, I thought it was by far and away her best performance at the dispatch box since she's been the opposition leader. I thought that she actually struck the tone quite well on the basis that there is a lot of anger in the country about how inept and somewhat deliberately stupid this Labour Party is. Look, I don't know if there's anybody left in the country that voted Labour that's happy with that. And if they did vote Labour and they are happy with it, these are people that need to be assessed, essentially. We need a new assessment centre where we can take people. It's an amnesty. You can say, I voted Labour. Okay. But do you still agree they're doing okay? If at that point they say, yeah, I think they're doing a great job, they're just funneled off to one side very quietly. Their family are told they won't be around for a while.
So go through Rwanda. Hubs.
And
There'll be hubs set up.
There'll be offshore.
New assessment hubs to assess our performance. It's such a Labour thing, ironically, isn't it? If you voted Labour, we'll be assessing.
All of them will make it through the process. And I don't want that, Nick, but the process is the process.
Yeah.
And the offshore retraining of Labour voters that are happy with Labour will be brutal.
Yes. And that's just like you say, with a process, we'll follow the process. Yes. No, I liked it as well. I enjoyed it. I'm just trying to be very balanced and say that she went like anyway, we'll watch it. But yeah, who are these people happy with Labour? Well, hardly anyone really if you look at polls. But let's watch Kemi then, because she absolutely eviscerated old Rach from accounts.
Take her bright idea, the Office for Value for Money. It's been closed down because it didn't save a penny. In fact, it cost the taxpayer £1.6 million. You couldn't make this stuff up. Madam Deputy Speaker, I've identified a way to save taxpayers huge amounts of money by sacking just one person, the woman sitting opposite. The ex-chief economist of the Bank of England was not mansplaining. He wasn't mansplaining when he said the uncertainty around today's budget is the single biggest reason growth has flatlined. What did the Chancellor think would happen when she went on breakfast telly to do an emergency public service announcement? I interrupt your Cheerios to bring you this frightening message about income tax. And then, unbelievably, she changed her mind 3 days later. No wonder people are in despair. She says she wants people to respect her. Order. Take her bright idea.
Okay. Funny stuff from Kemi. I mean, she went with the act outs as well. Again, if you're going to talk about comedy, she went for the... Yeah, I hardly ever do act outs or hardly ever did when I was doing comedy, but it takes some nerve to do it. And she went for the act out of the breakfast interruption. Pretty funny stuff. The mansplaining bit was good. He wasn't mansplaining. The way she said that was very funny. And that was something absolutely pathetic that Reeves claimed in the run up to this, that people were mansplaining to. It's the kind of girl bossification, the sort of cosplay chancellor, right? It's like, I'm enjoying being chancellor. And look how chancellery I am. And there's like various photographs of her before from different angles. We're like looking, there's one with like some chess pieces and she's like all chancellery. And then that thing that she was alleged to have said, where she said, don't talk over me or something, or don't talk to me like that. I'm the chancellor. That was one of the leaked things that came out. It's just like, I'm enjoying being and she's still going on about being first female chancellor. No one cared at the time, and we care even less now. What do you think?
Well, it's so unimportant, actually. I mean, like all historical footnotes, you can mention them once, maybe you can mention them twice, but really they're not to be just rolled out every time you talk, because that just suggests you've got nothing else to back up what you're saying, other than the fact you just happen to have been born female, and by some sheer twist of fate, as Bob Dylan would say, you've ended up as Chancellor of the Exchequer for the UK. Incredible scenes. I mean, nobody can quite believe it. I mean, we all thought with Rachel's family must have been like, she's gone to just a comprehensive school and made it to Oxford. That's got to be the peak of luck for Rachel. Not only that, she's ended up as Chancellor of the Exchequer without any real qualification to do so. And it's bearing fruit now, sadly for us. I think she very cynically used the whole I'm a woman, it's misogyny, mansplaining horse shit. Because it completely undermines any argument that anybody that has any legitimate misogyny might have. Because you just go, well, you're just Rachel Reeves. I mean, you're just complaining like Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves is not. There is very, very few people in the country measuring Rachel Reeves on whether she's a woman or not. They are all measuring her, sorry, based on her incompetence in one of the top jobs in the UK. She's essentially the accountant for the whole UK at a time when the accounts are in the bin. It's a massive issue, not just for her. I don't care. You should stand aside at times like this and say, this job's too big for me. I can't do it. Of course, she's never going to do that. Unfortunately for Rachel Reeves, the way this is going to end up is she's going to be known as the worst chancellor of all time. And it's not going to be because she's a woman, but people will be able to say, I'm not sure that we should have a woman as chancellor. Look what happened under Rachel Reeves. I mean, she's surpassed Kwasi Kwarteng, who had 48 days as Chancellor of the Exchequer, miles and miles ago. I mean, the comparison doesn't exist anymore. She's made all the decisions that have kind of put us in the position we're in. Okay, whatever she inherited has now been imploded even further by her own decisions. And go on, Nick. Go on.
No, I was going to say that's the other thing. She blamed the Tories a lot. The other thing she said, I'm the first female chancellor. The Tories, and I am now putting up taxes on working people, basically, even though I said I wasn't. Yeah, I agree. And there was one other strange thing people noticed, and this is pure nitpicking now, that she kept saying Madame Deputy Speaker instead of Madam. Did you notice that? You what?
Like she was in Moulin Rouge. Like she wasn't in the House of Commons. She was just talking to some head of the prostitutes somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. That was weird. But there's a lot of weirdness. There's one moment as well. She got angry with it because Nuz Ghani, is that her name? She was the deputy speaker, and she did quite a lot of sort of order type interruptions. And there was one where Reeves just went, "Oh," you can actually hear her going like she gets kind of like wound up. Yeah, these are not great people. But anything else on that, Paul? Before I go on to the benefit cap, because I've got a whole extra section. There's something
nobody upon nobody should buy into this misogyny thing with Rachel Reeves.
I don't think anyone is. I've not heard anyone buy into it.
No,
except one person on Twitter. One person on Twitter called Kemi a misogynist for what she said. I mean, that's next level. Like Kemi is the misogynist. Apparently, women can be misogynist now, and Kemi is one to.
This is the one thing. I mean, I thought it was brilliant yesterday. The one thing she did brilliantly was point out she too was a woman.
Yeah, she said woman to woman.
Woman to woman. And I thought that was brilliant. It was a moment of pure theatre. And one thing we couldn't see because we had the TV camera angles is we couldn't see the reaction of the benches from Labour Party. And I've since seen still photographs. And man, would that was a picture. They didn't know where to look. These were subdued. These rabble rousers were fully subdued yesterday. And I think they looked embarrassed. No less Keir Starmer, who, by the way, probably is incredibly misogynistic towards Rachel Reeves and is probably constantly mansplaining to her. And I think at the point,
Kemi caught him live. There's a bit where he was talking to her live, and she goes, "Is he mansplaining to you now?" And that was hilarious.
Delicious is what that was. But no, nothing else to add apart from all the stuff I just added, Nick.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I can't with your new setup. When you talk, it sort of goes. We can't hear you at the same time as the new thing, so we have to just stop and be very courteous. But yeah, I'm trying to find it. Anyway, I can't find it, but basically some morons called Kemi misogynist, even though she was attacking another woman. Anyway, this two-tower benefit cap thing is very interesting. So I say very interesting. I mean, it's sort of grim and miserable. Is that interesting? But so first thing to remember about this is it's those on tax credit already. So it's not all children. And what it is, they are scrapping the two-child benefit cap limit. So now if you have just spaff out any number of children, you can still get, even if you're on tax credit, you can still get this. if you're on tax credit. But people make it sound like it's sort of Victorian thing to keep it in place, but it wasn't. Anyway, they're going to scrap it from April, and this is going to cost, depending on who. Well, I've heard 2.3 billion. I heard Kemi say 3 billion. When I looked at it, it's 2.3 billion in 26-27 and 3 billion in 29-30. So it's something like that. And Andrew Neil made an interesting point that this means that he says that benefits are index linked, but not income. I thought it was an interesting point. It's like you're freezing the thresholds on income, but benefits will carry on. It's basically being in line with inflation. So it's basically a benefit budget. It's great for people on benefits. It's terrible for people working. And one thing interesting about it is that the Byline Times admit that this is going to affect different ethnicities
Byline
differently. Yeah, what's interesting is that Byline Times, the biggest lefties, right, are actually sort of telling you the quiet part out loud. They say the two-child benefit, this was back in July 24, the two-child benefit cap is more about race than poverty, and not scrapping it signals a dangerous turn in British politics. So, of course, now it will be scrapped. So they say here, poverty data shows that Pakistani and Bangladeshi households are more likely to be impacted, showing that 56% of Bangladeshi households were in poverty, 48% of Pakistani households, 40% Black British, 35% any other Asian background. So basically, Paul, this is Pakistanis and Bangladeshis spaffing out loads of kids. Some of them will be from cousin marriages and have problems, and we'll be paying for all that. So that's the reality, and that's what a lot of people object to. Apart from the fact that people aren't working, there's also an extra element. I mean, Christopher Talbot here, the Labour Party say a budget that delivers for you and your family. He says as long as you're a Muslim with 3 wives and 20 children. Obviously, we don't condone this. Lander says this budget was actually very good if you're an unemployed Somalian in social housing with 8 kids. Otherwise, it was shit. Obviously, we don't condone these terrible comments, Paul. But I thought it was important to share them.
All takes, it's important.
Yeah, we have to get all takes. We have to be comprehensive. So this, I mean, look, Paul. Some people say, "Oh, it's cruel." It's not really cruel because it only affects you. It's only for people on. It's only this universal tax credit thing. It's not all children for one. And then how many families really have over 2 children? Well, as basically immigrant families. So this is a problem with it. What do you think?
Look, scrapping the child tax benefit. There's a couple of things that strike me here. Scrapping the child benefit limit is okay. It's a luxury of a healthy economy. It would be a luxury of a healthy economy if you had a burgeoning, full of growth, we're talking 5% plus growth economy. You could look at potentially lifting children out of poverty in this way. And that would need to exclude a number of things. It would need to exclude people that have just arrived with 6 kids. This would need to, I think, to be means tested in a way that was incredibly fair towards people that had been paying into the system. I'm not saying it could never be done. I'm saying it's terrible, terrible politics and terrible, terrible timing. The other thing, which seems to get missed a little bit here, is you don't bring children out of poverty by making their parents worse off. Now, let's just imagine for a moment that these are parents that did have jobs, but have fallen on hard times and could benefit from receiving benefits for each of their children, and they've got 3 or 4 children. They paid into the system, etc. Now, if let's just say that's the case, and that's not what we've talked about up to this point, but there are those type of people out there, so I'm trying to add a little bit of balance to this. Now, there is no incentive at the moment for those people to go back into work. There was a case of a woman in the Manchester area who, on benefits with children, was earning £36,000 a year. She couldn't get a job for £36,000 a year, so she stayed on benefits. Also, if you're on the cusp of all these things and you're a working parent, both parents are working, you've got 3 or 4 children, you are now being robbed. But your taxes are being raided. Your salary is being raided via tax. There is no incentive there either. She's coming at the middle income earners, which, by the way, are people that earn maybe £40,000 to £100,000 a year. Now, I'm fully aware there are people watching this, listening to this in the country that don't earn anywhere near £40,000 a year, and they're still keeping a household going, and they're still keeping children fed and watered, and they're still keeping them clothed. Those people are also being attacked. So the people that are working are being robbed. The parents that are working are being robbed. So they're not incentivized whatsoever. So the only people that are incentivized by this are non-working parents with lots of children. Well, statistically, and if we take all emotion out of this, that is likely to be the type of families that we're talking about. We're talking about migrant families that have got lots of children, or we're talking about families that have historically and perpetually been on the welfare system. So it doesn't actually bring children out of poverty. It rewards people that don't work. If, like I said at the top of this ramble, you means tested it and we had a healthy economy, I could understand it. This is not doing this whatsoever, because alongside this, they're increasing the minimum wage. The minimum wage hike of 85 pence or whatever it was actually stops employers employing people. So people at the lower end of things are not being employed. I've got personal examples of this. I'm a small business owner. I'm the father of a young adult, and she finds it difficult to get into work because, rightly so, the employer would much rather employ someone with experience on £11 an hour than they would with someone completely inexperienced on £11 an hour. So they're creating a system which just benefits those that are either perpetually on welfare or are just scrounging off of the system. It boggles the mind how they can believe this is good. And the reason they're doing it is it's being led. They keep saying this. It drives me nuts. When they came into power, they said country ahead of party. Country ahead of party. This is none of those things. This is appeasing backbenchers. This is 100% party ahead of country, because this does. Statistically, you could prove this will bring some families out of poverty, but those families were never going to bring themselves out of poverty, and never can. Is my point, Nick?
Absolutely. She even put it at the end where you normally put the nice bit for the people. Oh, and booze is going to be cheaper. You throw in a thing at the end that's meant to be like a food. But what she threw in at the end was this SOP for the backbenchers. As you say, it's for the Labour. It's a Labour budget. It's a Labour budget for Labour people, basically for Labour backbench MPs. It's not for you and me or anyone.
Labour backbench. Labour backbench. I've taken ibuprofen and paracetamol. I'm off my tits, Nick. I can't get my words out. But Labour backbench MPs that are 100% aware that if things carry on the way they're going, they will lose their cushy constituency MP job, because nobody's going to vote for them unless, of course, they are an immigrant with lots of children or someone who completely relies on the welfare state. Those people are always going to vote for Labour still, because why wouldn't you? If I was in that position, I'd be pushing Labour button all the time, because
they'll move to Greens. Some of them will move to Greens in your party because they're the even more free money party.
I heard Zach Polanski say that borrowing against GDP is at 100% or whatever. And then he used Japan. He said, well, Japan's at like 250%. I mean, he added no context to that whatsoever and just said, well, we could just go up another 150%. He's literally saying that what Rachel Reeves is doing is he would double. He would double. And at the same time, there'd be no borders. So the amount of people that we would have to fund would probably triple or quadruple. And you could just buy heroin in your local chemist. It would have become mental.
Paul, if you don't have any money, you can just hypnotize yourself into thinking you do.
Yes.
That's the Zach Polanski way. Hypnotize yourself into a bigger bank account. I've always wanted a bigger bank account. Yeah, just believe it.
Yeah. I'd also believe I've got big breasts so I could play with them while I was waiting for a job.
Well, yeah, we know he can do that, but he can also do it with money. And by the way, Paul, what he's missed out there, we're paying higher borrowing rates than Japan, so it's not even equal anyway. Yeah, because we've not paid back what we agreed, and so we've got these ridiculous. We're like an ex-girlfriend, Paul, who's run up ridiculous. I'm speaking from experience. Everyone's got an ex-girlfriend in chronic debt. We're like an ex-girlfriend who's just got 13 credit cards, all at 23%. Everyone's known someone like this in their life. That's what we are now as a country. We've got these ridiculous borrowing rates, even worse than Japan's. Even though, yes, we've borrowed slightly less, but the percentages are higher on what we're paying. And servicing our debt now is something like 100 billion a year or something from memory. Something insane.
Yeah, and tax revenue was at about, of GDP, was about 24, 25%. By the end of this budget plan, which is like 29, 30, it will be at 38%. Basically, 40% of all the coffers coming into the UK government will be from tax money, no matter what. So 40%, literally the whole country, no matter what they're doing. And by the way, these taxes double and triple. You pay tax on everything. It's stamp duty when you buy a house. When you pay tax on your salary, and then you go to a shop and pay further tax. And then sometimes if you want to use that item that you bought, you pay another tax. It's like everybody's going to be paying 40%, except those on the welfare state. We've all got to do our bit. Sorry, we've already done our bit. What are you going to do? What are other people going to do?
I was right, by the way. The UK's debt servicing costs forecast to be over 105 billion for the 24-25 financial year. So I guess is that a little bit old, but anyway, I was basically right. And your stat is correct. I mean, Zia Yusuf said taxes will be 38% of GDP by 2029, if that's what you meant. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So basically, every pound you spend, 40% of it will go to the government. Every pound you spend, 40%, irrespective of what you've already paid on your salary, on your earnings, or your business rates, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and the worst, most despised government of all time, that, as we will discuss later, is getting rid of jury trials, hates you if you're British, wants to release you from prison if you're a hardened criminal. The most disgusting. I mean, it's not just a government; it's the worst government we've ever had, and we're going to give them that amount of money. Can you believe it? And Starmer's still talking about breakfast clubs. I couldn't believe it, Paul. I refuse to learn what a breakfast club is. He mentions it every week, and breakfast club. It's like. I assume it's where you give poor kids breakfast, but I refuse to check because it's so annoying. I'm not going to look into it.
You pretty much nailed it. This is breakfast clubs at schools for kids that their parents can't afford breakfast. But look,
I might sound callous there, but it's like
no.
Talking about breakfast clubs because it's not a big thing to. I mean, yeah, okay. So,
again, he's preaching to his choir. The people that are using breakfast clubs are all the aforementioned. Not the middle earners, not the working breed. We're talking about those on the welfare state that can't afford to feed their children. So they send them to school, not only to feed them, to learn how to brush their teeth and wipe their ass or whatever it is they haven't taught them at home.
Vote Labour.
Vote Labour. Do you want your kids to wipe your ass? Do you want your kids to wipe your ass? That's not a plan, is it? But maybe that's next. All kids that wipe their parents' ass will get free milk.
Do you know what? I might sound callous. What it is, Paul, we all look. I've been in trouble before financially. I mean, it's not like I'm doing amazing at any given time, but it's all very fragile in the work I'm in. But we all want to help out people who are in need, where we feel we're in a cohesive society or a high trust society, things like that. What we don't want to do is help people who've just arrived in the country, who have nothing to do with the country, probably hate us, and we also don't want to help scroungers, but we all want to help people who need it. And there's been arguments made on the left, people like John Gray, that when you had social markets, people did naturally help out the poor, and when you had the free market, it imposed all these rules, and you couldn't do that anymore, and you had to accept a minimum wage and things like this. So there's always arguments from the left, but we naturally will help out people who deserve it because that's what we're like. But we don't want to help people now because we know the whole thing's a scam. They're rewarded, as we've discussed at length now, whereas being in work is not rewarded. They may have just come into the country, they may be taking the piss. And also, as I've said in the past, yes, we're in a position, and you've alluded to it as well, it's logical to be on benefits for lots of people because work doesn't pay, as we know. So you can't even expect people to make themselves poor and make their lives much harder. So it does come back to the government incentivizing these things. Anyway.
Yeah, by the way, they say we've got a mental health epidemic. And we might well do, but is it any surprise? Any surprise whatsoever? You're either perpetually on welfare. That's no good for your mental health because, it's statistically and therapeutically proven that working or being involved in something meaningful in your life will help your mental health. Or you're working your nuts off / breasts, and you can have both. I mean, whatever. But you're working yourself to death.
Do you think he ever tried to make anyone's nuts bigger? Sorry to interrupt, but do you think he was ever like, I want to have bigger nuts, Zach? Can you do that for me? And it's like, yeah, just close your eyes, listen to the sound of my voice.
No one's ever asked, have they? No one's ever gone.
The nut whisperer
ever said, I want more nuts.
Paul, the nut wizard. Sorry, carry on. That was a shocking interruption. You were making a serious point.
The nut wizard. By the way, it's good to bring stuff this crazy stuff. Last week, if you didn't watch or hadn't paid for the paywall version, by the way, it's only £5 a month. Why wouldn't you? Some of the best comedy we produced on this podcast came in that last 20 minutes. So look,
we always relax in that bit because obviously we can be more racist and we can say all the words we can't say on this. Some of there were some new slurs Paul came out with I'd never even heard before. But I mean, what's he got to? Why does he hate Filipinos that much? It was shocking. But we do tend to relax in that section, and I can't remember what it was to do, but it was something to do with bombs inevitably, wasn't it?
I'm not going to give any context to this at all, but you can pay and go back and look at the back catalogue. But I believe I uttered the sentence, he was nuts deep in a pig's head trying to get into the bumhole gang. And
so we do poetry in the paid section is what we're saying. We sometimes do poetry.
After that, it just became hilarious. There was all sorts of shenanigans after. And of course, all the Filipino stuff as well, which, you never know what you're going to get from me. I take a shot of whiskey, I head into the paid section, and stuff
He's high on a mixture of painkillers and alcohol and goofballs, to quote The Simpsons. Sorry, Paul, I interrupted your point, but you can finish the point and we can get to the OBR leak aspect.
Look, the point is, everything they're doing is exacerbating the problems we have. And then they're selling it to us like it's the remedy. It's a toxic relationship with our own government. It's like being in a partnership with an abusive partner that we cannot get out of. We can never get out of. And this is the worry.
And that's one thing that really bothers me when Rachel Reeves goes, we are asking those with the broad... I've just done my Starmer impression because they're the same. We are asking those with the broader shoulders to contribute a bit more, whatever she said. It's like, you're not asking. It's not optional, is it? If we don't pay this, we go to jail. It's not. We're not asking. You're forcing workers.
If they are asking, then you and I would like to vote.
No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Yeah, we're asking you. You got our shoulders aren't that broad, Rachel. Okay, cheers for the compliment. We've been working out, but they're not that fucking broad. And you're trying to take. Speaking of broad to broad, I'm going to tell you. This is what Kemi should have said. You say our shoulders are broad. You're a dumb broad. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. But she said those with the broader shoulders, not very broad, really, Rachel, are going to have to contribute more. We're asking them. Yeah, you're not asking. They should. Yeah, I'd love a budget where she asked a load of things, and we could just go no.
Choose from the following options. Press 1 if you're like, no, I'm not pressing 1. I've gone straight to not doing anything and hanging up and going back to. By the way, it's only just been a year since she took us up the back passage without any lubrication at the Halloween budget of 2024, which put us in a situation which tried to backfill this £22 billion black hole, which she completely fabricated and then made worse within a year. I've said this 5 or 6 times. It is a toxic, abusive relationship, and they are the ones that are controlling the remedy every single time. They punched us in the face, offered us paracetamol, and said the best way out of this problem is for us to continue punching you in the face.
You won't get analogies like that anywhere else, guys. All right, let's have a look at this. So Deputy Speaker Nuz Ghani, she made a point here.
Her before. She has an actual title which I forget what it is.
Chairman of Ways and Means.
Chairman of Ways and Means. Yeah, not seen her before.
Yeah, you've got various people sort of trying out for a job, haven't you? You've got Caroline Noakes pops up occasionally. Anyway, I feel like she wanted her a little bit of attention. I'm not going to say she was terrible, but I do feel like she wanted to get a bit of attention and she kept stopping it. And I don't know, I did feel that a little bit. But she did make this interesting, or not massively interesting, but important point that they'd leaked. There've been all sorts of leaks that she alludes to, and then she goes on to the main leak, which was from the OBR, and how crazy and unprecedented it was.
And just a moment ago, it seems the OBR analysis has also appeared online. This all falls short of standards that the House expects. The premature disclosure of the contents of the budget has always been regarded as a supreme discourtesy to this House and to all the democratically elected members, not to mention to Mr. Speaker and to myself, the Chairman of Ways and Means. The government's own ministerial code cannot be clearer, as set out in paragraph 9.1, When Parliament is in session, the most important announcements of government policy should be made in the first instance to Parliament. Mr. Speaker has always upheld the rights of this House and its members to be treated with respect.
I think that's probably all we need to know. So, yeah, pretty shocking. The OBR leaked the entire budget. So everything that we've said, people already knew, and they were looking through as she was saying it, which has never happened before. There was someone in Attlee's government, Bolton, was it?
Yes.
Released some of it to a journalist in passing.
One budget item. He had a conversation with a journalist, perhaps over a glass of wine in the Houses of Parliament. I don't know. And it was discovered that's what he'd done. It was leaked. He had to stand down. Now, if that was the case, Rachel Reeves would have had to have stood down maybe about 6 weeks ago, because she was pitch rolling and floating stuff for weeks. She was so uncertain about what she was going to do that she was literally just chucking things out, saying, "Oh, what do you think of this?"
Hugh Dalton. Did I say Bolton? It was Hugh Dalton, wasn't it?
Rhyming slang. They used to call him Bolton.
So Hugh Dalton, and he had to go, yes, because of leaking a tiny bit of it in 1947. Now OBR releases the whole thing. So far as we record, no one has gone, unless it's literally been while we're recording. But I'd be amazed if someone doesn't go for this. This is Richard Hughes, who's the boss of the OBR, and he's called in a cyber expert to figure out how this cock-up happened. I'd be surprised if he doesn't go, or someone.
Who sent the email? It got sent out. I mean, Guido Fawkes got hold of it at 11:30, and then just started, I believe, publishing key points. It took the wind. I mean, there was very little wind available for the sails, and this just took everything out. So there was no fanfare for anything that they could potentially celebrate, which was only the child benefit cap being removed. And it also informed everybody else what was in there, so that they could scrutinise it before Rachel Reeves had even said it, which meant that they weren't reacting to it in Parliament either. We weren't hearing for it for the first time. It's also, and luckily it didn't have a negative impact yesterday, it scares the markets. Something like that could have tanked the markets, which would affect us all even worse than the budget. I mean, it's quite scandalous, really. Maybe it was a mistake. It looks like it just come from the OBR. I'm not even sure we need the OBR. I mean, was it Tories or was it the end of the Labour government when they introduced the OBR? It's not really
Osborne, I think.
Osborne. It was Osborne. Yeah, it's another quango. Get rid of it. It offers nothing. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to do the job, does it? I mean, since we've had it, we've just had more chaos. So yeah, I mean, but, some of this stuff's beyond my pay grade, the financial stuff, but I don't see why we need the OBR. I mean, it's good at getting rid of Liz Truss. That's about all it does, as far as I can see. Or people say she didn't properly brief them, but anyway, that's the budget. In the paid section, we're going to go on to jury trials. Why David Lammy wants to get rid of a rule we've had in place since 1215. Old Lammy. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Anything else to say on the budget, though, Paul? I'm trying to think if I've got anything else, but
no. I mean, no one. Hopefully, no one came here today looking for full Liam Halligan-esque breakdown coverage of the budget. You didn't get that if you were, so sorry to disappoint. But what we have done is our usual expert bants, and just trying to give the sort of every person view of it, which is that it's a disgrace. It's a budget for those on welfare and the backbench Labour MPs. It's probably the last budget that Rachel Reeves will ever give, and our parting gift is to take us one last time up the bumhole.
I didn't know how you're going to end that. So you don't do that on the telly. You should, but you don't. You'll never do that on the telly because you're a sellout, Paul. Why don't you should say that on GB News?
I should do.
Where else can you get that? Well, I mean, you probably shouldn't even say it on YouTube. But where else can you get that except Dixon Cox? I mean, you probably knew from the title that kind of banter was going to happen. All right, that is most of that. We'll do the. We always get much more loose in the paid section. I don't know why we finally relax. So go and pay at nickdixon.net. Even if this bit was shit, still pay for that bit because it will be better than this bit, right?
Yeah, let's get racist is the motto for the next section.
Well, you're in luck, Paul. But I'm not going to say why. Anyway, nickdixon.net if you want to watch the rest. Otherwise, we'll be back soon, perhaps again on a Wednesday, but it seems to always end up on a Thursday now. But let's see. It was Paul's birthday, and he had a great one sitting around with knee pain. So we'll see some of you on nickdixon.net and some of you on Paul Cox Comedy. But for the rest of you on YouTube and audio platforms, thank you very much and goodbye.
Very bye.